You're all heart.
And she was hoping that I think the Monbiot would then write about it in his Weekly Guardian column. But he was so outraged by the film, the other film she showed him, which is our film, that he gave up. It was like May Day, I think, wasn't it? I remember reading it on the bus on the way up to the city. Where he was very excited. He got very upset. He said we were fetishising violence, and he gave us some great quotes.
Yeah, the sales rocket after that, did they? Did you get Monbiot's quote on the back cover for the second edition?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, Monbiot. He's even today he's still. I don't know. I mean, it's almost like I used to see Monbiot used to come to Reclaim the Streets meetings, and you see him at various gatherings and stuff, and he's getting involved in discussions, and it was quite ridiculous. He was like wanting to be a part of the resistance, but at the same time he was just using it for stuff that he could stick into his column, and for his just so he could get the gen on people, and then he could peddle reformist dirge and slag them off. So, which he's still doing now. More
to the point, there seemed a real social movement created around the world at the time. There was a lot of excitement about the anti-globalisation movement, and you had like the black blockers, the anarchists smashing up everything. It seemed like that was a continuation of J18 in this country, and it would go on forever and would build bigger and bigger. And I think after Seattle, there was a definite feeling of things on the move and so on. But it didn't happen. How do you think the anti-globalisation movement came to a halt, or just dissipated, or?
It's hard to tell. Yeah, I mean, I, along with a lot of other people, we were really excited about what was going on. In my lifetime, this was the most vibrant. I'm reluctant to use the term revolutionary, but it was the most vibrant, progressive political situation that I've been involved in, that I'd seen happening, and it sort of died a death. I guess the anti-war movement was part of it. I mean, it's sort of hard to tell. Yeah, I think people got a bit lost chasing the summits. I think was probably. The politics sort of disappeared a little bit, and also, it's all very well sort of closing down a summit here and there, but that's more of a gesture, and it wasn't picked up on. I mean, maybe just we weren't clever enough, or generally people didn't move forward, pick up on what was okay. We've had some successes here. Now we have to go into the communities and actually make the things that we're talking about happen, or at least get those messages across to people who aren't plugged into resistance politics, like most people can't be arsed with. And fair enough, they're getting on with their day-to-day lives.
What about specifically the anarchist black bloc who were film smashing things up and got blamed by a lot of people for alienating aspects of the movement? And
I don't know really. I mean, a lot in the US, there were quite a few high-profile arrests. People did some big jail time. Some of the guys from Eugene and that, got picked up on they'd done some local actions, and they got enormous. I can't remember, but long jail sentences. And I'm not saying that necessarily put people off, but.
I think you get to a certain stage, don't you, like J18, when the violence gets quite widespread, and then you're faced with the question of escalating the violence.
Well, exactly, and maybe that sort of people were possibly not organised enough, or actually had articulated the ideas in as much as where do we go from here. Yeah, I guess once you've broken a few windows, you've taken out some police cars and some banks, then what are you going to do next? What are you actually going to use that tactic to go forward? So are you going to start assassinating people, or are you going to try to formulate an army that's going to take on the state in a confrontational way? And most people would go, well, that isn't going to happen. It's not going to work like that. Or we weren't on the verge of revolution either locally or globally.
And I guess one of the problems is that a lot of the activists, although some were homegrown, were sort of travelling around the world, so they were there for a week and had to go home, so they couldn't be setting up barricades and forming autonomous republics.
That's right, because the Interrail ticket was going to run out.
Yeah, they had to get the plane back. So that was always a problem. And then you went to Genoa, did you not? And
I guess sort of Genoa was a sort of... It marked where it turned round, and we could see it sort of coming apart a little bit there. Genoa, it was. I guess it's sort of the age-old problem in Genoa was that the organised left, who were very excited about the stuff that had been going on at the various summits and that, thought, right, well, we'll have some of this, and we're better than Italy for very established left-wing groups then to completely grasp this movement and go, right, we're going to lay down a load of rules and we'll organise it. And and when we got to Genoa, there was some quite dreadful things had already gone on. There was obviously huge deals had been made with the police about sort of various spectacles were going to be allowed to happen and other things weren't going to be allowed to happen. You had I don't know, guys, possibly from the Tutti Bianchi or from some larger, Italian, inverted commas, anarchist groups, beating people up in the street. I saw a guy beaten up in the street because they were accusing him of being a cop. And they beat him up. And then they left him in the march. And it was like, because they weren't really sure if he was a cop. Well, either he's not a cop and you leave him alone, or he is a cop and you kick him off the march. But I think there was a lot of confusion in that and... in that sort of...
And then there was the fatality with Carlo Giuliani, and then you were actually, I think you were in the school which was attacked by police, but you left before they came. Is that right?
Yeah, we were in the school and in the media centre there.
Can you just, maybe people don't know, just quickly explain what the police did at the school?
There was like an independent media centre set up in a school in Genoa, and then there was a couple of days where there was a big action against the G8 summit, and there had been some quite robust activity from the anarchists or just from the activist blocs, and some really heavy-handed policing. I mean, the police had some ridiculous weapons. Like they were driving armour cars into crowds of people. They were flying helicopters low over the crowd and just shoveling tear gas canisters out the doors. I remember sort of propping up some old woman in her 80s in a completely jam-packed crowd, holding a gas mask to her face, thinking this woman's going to die because it was like 35 degrees and there was like 10,000 people in a tiny street, and there's just tear gas and cops driving this tank at the other end of the crowd. And that